As as you head into this village, what do we see and what are we hearing?
Right. So what you see is a classic small village. It's effectively a crossroad of two dirt paths, one that leads up to an old manor house. But at the
Mm-hmm.
actual crossroads, there's a handful of small old style stone buildings. One of them has been turned into an inn slash pub, and it has a sign above the main window reading Ham's Inn.
Mm-hmm.
As you get down to the main area,
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple other houses around that look like they've been altered. There's one for a small general store that literally just has a sign over the door saying store. And the window next to the door, you can see like there's a couple of like tinned stuff sitting there, some bags and stuff. It looks like a general old timey store that you could pick up general supplies at. There is also there's a house directly across where there's a man with a clearly old looking police uniform standing there with, and I mean, I'm using the term uniform very loosely. The main thing marking this guy out as being some sort of uniform is he does have a sheriff badge
Mm-hmm.
attached to his shirt, but he is essentially just standing there leaning against the wall, not really paying that much attention to things going on. He's just kind of hanging out.
Now, would you say their clothing is in a different era or are they in the same era?
It looks relatively, early 1900s style. It's dress clothing, like it's not formal, but it's general clothing
General
for
the
the time.
mill type of
Yeah.
clothing. They probably are using some cottons and a little bit longer dresses because the early 1900s there was sometimes they had the dresses, sometimes they did not. Um, they would this would there be any risque people in this?
Oh no,
No.
no. This is
So
a
most likely they're
small
at
rural
least
village.
almost at the ankles, if not between the knees. But it has to be
Moderate.
lower than the yeah. So moderate
Moderate.
clothing.
Yeah,
Um,
like the 6 or 7 people that you see milling about, because this is effectively the main road for this like village,
Mhm.
mm-hmm.
and there's you can easily look around and count the number of people on without having to add any extra hands. There's less than 10 people visible.
Any
However,
ragamuffins or people who would be considered hobos?
no, this is like it's a village of 40 people. This is not a town.
I yes, but there could be occasional person who's just like has kind of like a
I mean,
hillbilly feel to
there's
him.
a couple. This is a village of hillbillies, essentially.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
know.
like, yeah,
It's
no,
it's a
no
it's
one's
a
particularly well off. Chances are the cop is the most well dressed person there.
so it's like
Okay.
rural Louisiana in a sense.
Yeah, could be. I mean, to be fair, never really researched it much, but yeah, could definitely be. I mean, honestly, it kind of feels like you've walked into a town from Red Dead. You know,
Yeah.
it's that kind of the place is basically dead.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm getting an understanding of this. So
Yeah.
basically, we have like an Andy type village where there's maybe no more than 50 people who Betsy and
Andy type village.
so Andy Gardner, the Andy Gardner show.
I have no idea. Never watched it.
Okay, well, Opie was his son. And then you had
Was this that thing about the cop?
yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
So
still never watched it, but I remember Carmack came up with.
But this village is similar to that. The cop is probably similar to Andy. We have hillbillies and modest clothing, but no risque clothing. We have a few buildings that are spread around. The basic ones. There's one with a store. There's one with maybe a doctor to this place, a school, and
there's no school.
There's no school. Okay.
This place is too small for a school. Like there is some evidence that at one point in the previous 100 years, there were some attempts to expand this location, but clearly something got in the way of that.
Okay, so there's a mansion, there's no school, but there is a store, and there's a doctor, and there's an inn.
I never said there was a doctor. I said there was a very small office.
So there's not even a doctor.
Yeah, I mean,
because
the point being, this stuff would be things that people probably operate from their house. There would be someone with medical knowledge in the village who probably you would go to their house.
Go to their house.
Okay. At the back that is where they run their village clinic from.
Okay, well then that's still the doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not in the middle of town.
Okay, it's not in the middle of town, but there is a doctor, because there's always got to be a doctor, even in one of these little small places.
Yeah, I know.
Because
but the point is, they don't factor into this.
As you're writing.
Okay, hold on. The easiest way to do this is, so as you're riding up into towards the crossroads, and you basically pull up and park your horse, put it into neutral. The cop who's leaning against the door, as you pull up, you can see through the door there's a very small office. It looks like a converted house because that's what it is. There's a table with some paperwork on it. There's a guy napping in a chair who appears to have a less impressive deputy badge on his shirt. And you can see that there looks to be a back room that's probably, it would have been a bedroom when the house was originally built. It's currently got some bars there, and there's two guys who look identical. They look like identical twins in solo cells sleeping. You could take a wild stab. They're probably the village drunks. But as you stop, the cop will look up and sort of reach up, sort of give the tug of the hat rim, and basically say, "Howdy, what you doing? What brings you to the town?"
You seriously have not seen Andy Griffith, but you just literally did
an exact skit of it.
I'm super sorry, but this is going to come as a massive shock to everyone watching this on YouTube in 15 years. I am not in America.
I know.
I know you're shocked. But yeah, the guy basically, he looks up and he stops just short of the howdy thing. It's just like, "Hey, what brings you to town?" And I would assume you climb down out the cart or off the horse, whichever. So this guy who looks like a general, small town sheriff, he looks a little bit older than sort of average age. He's been around for a while. There's a few grays appearing.
Mm-hmm.
What does he see when he looks at you? And this is your prompt to describe Velma for us.
I'd say, if anything, it'd be modest woman, things like that there. Probably have a cat sitting on my shoulder at the time being upon meeting. I'd say. Sorry, hang tight for a second. I'm reading a quick thing on my side because, hey, yeah, all of a sudden got loud. There we go. Sorry, but, I'd say if anything, modest woman hair looks like probably a little bit between either kept fine, but also like a little bit of like you just been through a rough day. I don't know, kind of thing like that. Probably has like a small little cat sitting on her shoulder at the time.
What color is the cat?
It's going to be gray with black stripes.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, as I say, he says to you, "Can welcome in. What brings you to town?"
If anything, I'm here just to grab a couple of supplies and a few things before I have to head back onto the road and continue with my work.
He just kind of nods and, "What kind of work?"
I am a traveling merchant.
Ah,
You got no home, just move from place to place, taking everything with me where I need to go until the next sale can pick up again.
I see, I see. Well, if it's general stuff you're looking for, and he kind of points over to the other house with the eponymous store label above the door.
Mm.
The Warrens will take care of you.
Mhm.
And unless you've got anything that you would like to ask him, he just kind of goes back to leaning against the wall, casually folding his arms,
Mhm.
just kind of glancing around. But he keeps having a "you're always within his periphery" kind of
Mhm.
thing. He's just sort of keeping an
Yeah.
eye because you're an unknown factor to him.
Mhm.
You do notice when you look at him closer, you can see the sheriff badge immediately under it. There is a little name badge that states him as Sheriff Stephen Darrell, and that's
Mhm.
Darl.
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. But thanks for the info for at least pointing where the general store is.
He gives you a nod.
And then I'll probably, I guess, just walk out the door at that point, I guess.
There's four locations. You're currently at one, being the police office.
The sheriff's office,
There's
yeah.
there's the general store. There's the pub, and there's somewhere in the back areas there will be a little doctor's office. Great, thanks, Karsa. I now had to come up with a name for that doctor. Thanks, just in case.
Just name
There's
him
always a
Doctor.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
always a doctor. There's always
Yes,
a
it's
doctor.
Doctor. He has a medical license in medicine.
If you want.
Technically speaking, you won't know where the thing you're after is
Mhm.
unless you find someone that can suggest where things might be. To be fair, the off-screen stuff with Kara is essentially she contacts you that she needs the eponymous moon lilies for her supplies,
Mhm.
but she's contacting you because she needs the specific we don't really have a word for it, but like activated moon lilies.
Mhm.
And you've heard a couple stories about this area, like the village of Tamsworth has come up a few times in terms of there are some spiritual activities going on in that area
Mhm.
that may be worth investigating.
Mhm.
So essentially, that's what she knows, is that you've said, right, well, I've heard of this place called Tamsworth, and I might be able to get what you need there. I'll head out there. Here's where it is on the map. I'll head out there. Shouldn't be more than,
A few
a week
days,
and a half.
or probably a few
Max.
days or something.
Yeah. Like,
Mhm.
the area I'm picturing this is like the other side of Massachusetts from where Boston and everything is.
Mhm.
kind of sizable. I mean, it's outside of town. Doesn't really matter how far. It's within travel distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so essentially she's expecting you back sometime between like 3 to 5 days, depending on how travel is, because with weather and that it can make the roads difficult.
And it is November, so it can get difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
So, at this point in time, most of the leaves are starting to completely be fall off, and you're starting to see occasional mornings of frost.
Yeah, like it actually makes the location look staggeringly beautiful. Like if you see it in that first moment with the the dew and everything, or like that first little dusting of frost, the place looks picturesque. You know, in 50 years, you could take a camera, take a photo of this place, and sell it for a lot of money. It's that nice.
To be fair, that is exactly how it is. Massachusetts is during this time of the year.
Yeah.
It's very picturesque. But it's very snowy often. So it is a little bit chilly today, and you probably are wearing a coat, but it is not overly chilly. Not just yet. But most of the leaves have fallen and are starting to stick to the ground. As you head away from the sheriff, Darrell, you will see the building we were speaking of, the store, the word store on it. And do you head there or do you go somewhere else?
I'd say I'll probably pop over at the general store then.
All right. So you head into the general store and you see a lady. The lady's a little bit older. Probably 50s, 60s. Hello, darling.
Oh,
What can I do to help you? Oh no, he's gonna get mad at me for my conversation.
oh.
Okay. What can I do to help you?
Yeah, just taking a look over a little few things, seeing what I'll need for my journeys.
All right. If you need anything, just holler.
Alrighty.
Yeah, and again, it looks like you've stepped into a old
Okay.
west
Yeah.
store, like
An old general store, yeah.
yeah, has that vibe.
A little bit of stuff on display, things like that.
Yep. There's a bunch of boxes and like behind the counters that are like marked for various goods that they've got. Plus, yeah, there's like sort of 5 or 6 of everything on shelves with a little price tags written there, and like actually very nicely done calligraphy style handwriting. And there's also a big chunky catalog sitting on the counter. That of course you'd be aware you can go and flick through for any special orders, but that stuff would be ordered in.
Yeah, you would have to actually get them ordered in. So what you would see is the basics, and then you could order from the catalog.
Yeah, and quite clearly, if you need anything for the horse, this is the shop you would go to, because they have all of that stuff here. Because the pinnacle of technology in this entire area is that one of the small hillbilly families has a very trashed and very rusty pickup that looks like it might be the first pickup ever built, because it is that old and that rusty. It's also half buried in mud, so not that great.
Yeah, I could always try to ask him, be like, hey, what do you want for the truck out front? It looks like it's buried in the mud.
Do you need a track?
Yeah, probably, if anything, it could be a project thing to work on. Probably put it into one of the havens as into one of the havens for storage until I can work on it later.
Well, you have to talk over. Who would have this truck?
The house that the truck is buried in the grounds of is a rundown little shack, run by, well, it's owned by a dude called Mark. No one remembers his surname because he's just Mark.
Well, you'll have to go speak to Mark about it. It's his truck.
Do you know if he's up at all?
Oh, everybody's up at this time in the morning, darling. The streets are closed off by 7 o'clock tonight, but most everything else is open by 6 in the morning. So there you go.
Thank you.
Because
Yeah,
that is
definitely.
actually how some of the rural places in Indiana are.
I mean, keep in mind you do have a specific reason for being in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So, anyway, she goes back to cleaning the store as watching. She's keeping one eye open for you.
And this general store does have like horse feed in it, right? Or
Oh
stuff like that.
yes, it has horse feed. It has
Yeah.
maintenance for wagons and for and well, the maintenance is like the basics, wheels and stuff.
Yeah.
The stocks cover like all of the kind of general stuff you would need. Like if there is something when it comes to like buying stuff in this system or that, because there is no actual currency system, essentially you can look for any specialist items that you would like, and depending on how potentially really rare these things might be, we may ask you to roll for like effectively investigating the area to find the specific thing. And then depending on that roll would be how successful you are.
Right.
Of course, if you fail, A, you get 1 XP, and B, you don't find what you're looking for.
Right. But you will not be doing as many rolls as you think. This one.
It's not as in depth as
this
like the last
system
session that I was
does
in before.
not. No, it could
Yeah.
be, but it's just.
Well, when it comes to the actual dice rolls for things like, say, in D&D, for instance, like if you want to make something in D&D, you might have to go and speak to someone and pay them money for the materials, and then go and like roll a crafting skill with someone else, and you'll get pluses or minuses depending on equipment and stuff. That's kind of incidental to this system. It's more just based on okay, what stat best fills what you want to do, and is it mundane enough, or more specifically, is it specialized enough that you can't really just do it? Because like I don't know anything about blacksmithing, but I could, in theory, if I just want to make something sharp that I can use as a throwing weapon, I could do that with never having forged something. Like, I understand the concept, heat metal, hit with hammer until sharp. If I want to actually make something that somebody would buy, then it comes into, okay, you're going to have to roll some dice now.
Yeah.
So it's the specialized stuff that you would actually have to roll dice for. Incidentals, it doesn't really matter. Mechanics wise.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what do you do from there? What do you buy?
If anything, I'll probably just be looking over, asking about like, hey, like, what's the price in some of your wagon maintenance equipment here? Like, how much does it usually run for?
You would find that most of the prices, because this is a kind of slightly out of the way place, there is evidence that people do travel through this location. It is like on the way between a couple larger towns, And for all like there's less than 100 people here, like the general store is well stocked. When you pass by the inn, you can see that the little bar space is well stocked. You know, it's not like everyone here has maybe $20 between them. You know, it still is 1928. So the prices are slightly above average by like maybe maximum of 5%. There's an ever so slight markup.
You would probably
Just
find
because they are slightly out of the way.
a wheel to be about $25,
Mhm.
an axle to be about probably 50.
Yeah,
So
to
in
be
all,
fair,
your
don't need
maintenance,
to get
full
into
maintenance
the.
would be about $100.
What about like for like wheel grease or something?
Well, I'm talking about everything.
Yeah,
It's like
In
just
a
I guess
maintenance
the full bundle.
package, a
Awesome.
maintenance package would be $100.
Yeah. And this isn't something that you're going to have to track because we're not tracking money.
No.
Like, you have the money on hand to do stuff.
Mhm.
So you would be able to buy pretty much what you need for a wagon.
Either necessities
for
or repairs
one
or
wheel.
pretty much whatever. So
Now, if
yeah.
you break 2 wheels, then you got to buy 2 of them.
No, if anything, if with the cart, depending on how it's prescribed, if anything, I feel like at that point they would probably have enough prepared for probably like a spare wheel on hand in case one does break or something. So
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean that's that whole thing. I mean, I'm not going to make Elle literally roll an entire, you know, social encounter with a mechanic to replace the pop tire on their Mercedes. You know, it's not going to happen.
no.
Unless it is part of the story and it's interesting. If it's just
Oh.
literally they were driving along and got a flat tire, I don't think it's necessarily worth, you know, having everyone spend 20 minutes listening to that player talk to Jeb at the gas station to get a new.
I mean, unless you really want to haggle and you want to haggle pretty hard, but then you got to figure
no, I don't have social skills, so it'd be pointless for me to have.
that would be a
Well, I mean, here's
charisma
the
roll. So
No, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, you could definitely roll charm. I don't care that you got a -1. You could definitely roll it.
yeah.
You know, hey, you could also argue for an incidental bonus for certain people because if you could find someone that likes your cats, oh, they may actually give you a +2 on charm, and then you're rolling with a +1.
Yeah, so there is
another cat lady.
There are things that you can do to make it easier on you. Looking at your sheet. Yeah, charm, cool,
I mean, to be
sharp,
fair as
tough, weird. Yeah.
If we were actually tracking currency, I would 100% be fine if you wanted to use sharp for an incident for a roll, because you're basically wagering your business acumen, because you are a traveling merchant. You know how to get people to buy stuff that they don't necessarily need, and you know
It's
how
like-
to say, oh yeah, this thing's totally worth $1, but I'll give it to you for $1.20 because that's a deal, and they believe you for some reason.
No, it'd be like, hey, yeah, how well are your skills? Socially awkward, but how well can you sell something? I could sell ice cubes to an Eskimo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can sell honey to bees. I am that good.
All right. So, at this point in time, you do have an agenda, but as you're going through the village, is there anything else you're doing?
I think probably at that point they're looking for making my way to wherever I need to go to get the stuff for my recipes.
Well,
For
that's
my
the
order,
thing.
if anything.
You don't know where that stuff might be in the area.
If
You
there is
heard that
a
this area has some, but you don't know specifically.
if there's a saloon, I could probably pop by there and ask the
Or there
bartender, be
is.
like,
There is a
I'll probably
saloon.
do that.
Hands in.
Tam's in.
Yeah.
And I'll probably stop over at the saloon then, I'd say, at that point, and ask the bartender, be like, hey, have you heard any like rumors that's been spreading around town or something?
When you walk in, it's less a saloon and more again. This looks like a house that's been converted. I mean, it's a little bit of a bigger house than the
The
rest of them.
B&B is an old town B&B.
Well, yeah. I mean, the general gist is this is a stone structure as opposed to like an old west saloon. But it's the general gist of you walk in. There's a small bar with like shelves stacked behind with bottles that are relatively recent. There's a couple bottles that might be the questionable moonshine that possibly Mark makes or something, but for the most part it looks pretty nice. It's well kept. There's a few scuff marks here and there. It's not the best sort of style. Because clearly this is out in the sticks. Like they ain't receiving any highfalutin business types. They're getting regular people just coming in for a drink after working in fields for all day. And yeah, when you walk in, there's an older gent, probably in his like early to mid 40s, sitting in a rocking chair, just like he's sitting there with a book. You can't tell the cover because it's kind of worn. And there's a woman roughly you estimate about the same kind of age, standing behind the bar, and like all bartenders, she's she's gone from standing there like leaning on the bar talking to the guy Benny about something, and then it's almost like you blink and suddenly she's just got a cloth in her hand and she's wiping the bar. You don't know where this cloth came from. She just kind of like osmosized it from the ether. Like this is clearly a skill that all bartenders share, the cloth dimension.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah, they are so good. You don't know where the cloths are kept because there's never any cloths on display. They just seem to have one whenever they need it.
So what do you do?
I'll probably talk to the lady behind the bar. Like, if anything, go up to the bar there and ask the lady on there. It's like, I don't know. This is, I guess, where the social awkwardness will probably kick in.
All right, so we're gonna have to do a charm roll. So
for the way that we do the rolls on this, because you explain what you want to do, and then if you open up, you know how to get to your character sheet, yeah?
Yeah, I'm already on it right now.
All right. So yeah, just click the little dice symbol next to where it says charm.
And then it should say input value plus minus forward question mark.
Yeah, just
It's sitting at 0 right now.
all right, let me click this. Yeah, just hit submit.
all right, so mixed success.
That's actually good.
Not too bad.
Because yeah, the way the system works is you get failure, mixed success, success, and advanced success. You can only get an advanced success, I believe, if you have a certain improvements that allow you to get the advanced success.
Right.
You can get a thing with advanced improvements that allows you to advance 2 basic moves, which would allow you to gain advanced success on those. So that's just treated as effectively a 10. Even if it's 12, it's a 10. You get an 8, so that's a mixed success. So yeah, you explain that you're in town, you're looking for some of the
like plant-based or flower-based things or whatever.
So she will come up with you as your mixed success. Oh, I gotta buy a drink first before I give you any secrets about the town.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. As soon as you hear that, like you kind of glance over and you see Benny sitting in the chair, just kind of rocking back and forth slowly. He glances up at his wife. There's clearly a smirk of, oh god, she's at it again, and then he just kind of shakes his head, looks back at the book. You can hear the soft turning of a page that's clearly too slow for him to actually be reading. he's actually paying more attention to what's going on. He's watching the street theater in front of him rather
He's
than
trying to stay discreet while
Yeah.
also trying to tune in.
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of that meme where the guy is like, he's got the Hoover, right, the vacuum cleaner, and he is vacuuming the grass outside to see what the
I
cops
remember
are
seeing
doing
that one.
across the street.
There
Yeah.
was one too. I remember before. It's where the guy's out there actively cleaning his car as something's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
Exactly. That is exactly what this guy is doing.
Or a guy or somebody's taking a broom to all the leaves outside as they're watching everything going on.
Yep. That's Benny in a nutshell.
So, yeah. So you have an audience. There's not many people in here, but she does say, well, you gotta buy a drink first before I give you any of our town secrets.
And then at that point, they're all probably trying to buy something that's probably the cheapest thing at that point because I don't want to get wasted on the job. So
you get the weakest ale.
yeah.
All right. It's okay. It's a little watered down, but it's okay.
That's fine, if anything.
But all right. So now that you bought a drink, how can I help you?
If anything, I'm looking for a couple of things that I was recommended that you guys may have over here. I'm looking for a couple of plants. So a couple of different types of plants here,
Plants.
or different like herbs, I should say. Sorry.
Okay, so what kind of herbs are you looking for? Because don't currently have a gardening store here. We do have the general store. You could possibly get seed from there.
If anything, I'm looking for a couple of things of ginger and like this one flower that I was recommended best be used for teas.
Okay, so what's the name of the flower?
It's
You know?
called the moon lily.
For
Or
a
at least
tea?
That's what I was told. Yes, it makes a great herbal tea to help with relaxing and stuff like that.
Oh. Well, I wouldn't expect it to be relaxing. I guess it would be relaxing, but I don't know if you want that kind of a tea.
How come?
Well, moon lilies are always found near the cemetery.
Hmm.
So,
I was always given the hint that they were growing up somewhere in a valley or something.
well, there is a cemetery near the mansion over there.
Hmm.
It's actually on the mansion's
Property. Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of at this point you hear the book being closed and Benny going, I don't know if you want to be heading over there, miss.
Kind of scary.
There's stories.
Stories or not, we closed the doors at 7 just because of it.
If I may ask, why do you guys close the doors because of it?
It's a thing in the town. Like, apparently some bad stuff happened. At this point, Benny actually gets up, puts his foot down, sort of walks over and leans on the counter. He's like, "There's stories. I mean, neither of us are actually from this town. Like, we met in Boston about 15 years back. We only came over here, what? Like, and he looks to his wife, like, what was it, about 5-6 years back?
About 5 years.
Something like that. Yeah. It's always been done.
Yeah.
And people get kind of
Antsy about it.
He sort of lifts his hand up and makes that kind of shaky motion. They get kind of antsy if you ask too much about it.
Like, really antsy. And doors are closed at 7. Because of that mansion. I don't know what it is, but that mansion scares the living daylights out of the people around here.
And besides the mansion stuff, is there any other rumors that are floating around, or what would you say? I guess at some point here, I guess like to change the topic a little bit since I don't want to get people riled up about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you make a suggestion about like, is there anything else that going on in the area?
Hmm.
Like true to MMO village tropes, straight up, Betty's just like, there ain't shit going on here. This place is dead most of the time. That's probably a bad choice of words,
I
but
don't know if it's dead. I mean, there's a certain someone playing with a certain someone. But, you
I
know,
don't care who. I do not care
you never do.
if he's banging his sister or not. I don't care. I would rather just read the book.
Right, right. You never do anyway. So,
Yeah, you get this feeling that this guy is bored out of his mind here. He's relatively happy, but he's also bored because this place is very quiet.
You don't get a lot of activity here, I'm assuming, or not many
it's
merchants run through.
no, this is a good retirement home.
Yeah, like it's something that you would notice that for all there are the age range does go from children to, you know, the standard kind of adult ages, and but there are a lot more people of the older generations, or not so much older generations, but like, you know, sort of 35 plus
Hmm.
is more than half the people that you've seen.
Hmm.
So like this is definitely a place that if whatever happened didn't happen, this place would be a lot bigger. But you definitely get the idea that the prime rise of this town was cut off quite early, and then it just kind of has been on a slow downward spiral since. People tend to be leaving to head off into local towns or, you know, over into the cities looking for jobs and such like. And then of course also people moving to be with families and such because they've gone off and found jobs. So the the population, that's the word, the population has been dwindling.
Well, don't say I didn't warn you.
Hmm. Thank you for the info, and thanks for the drink as well, too.
You're welcome. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, so
And
follow it off, like the moment you walk out, you kind of see it's almost like the slowly dipping sun is almost like you're on a perfect angle to look up the road and see the manor house that they're referring to as, you know, being the old family mansion and the sizable grounds that the place is in. You can also see that just within the grounds there is what looks to be a small gated area that is it appears to be full of tombstones.
Mhm.
And also as you head out, you feel a small tap on your shoulder, and then as you turn around, there's Sheriff Darrell
Mhm.
standing there with the arms crossed, and he just kind of looks at you for a moment, like
Mhm.
he's expressly waiting on you to like take a breath to say something, and then just at the moment when you do, he immediately says, "Why are you here?"
I just reply that if anything, I'm looking for a couple of herbs that I need to fill out to finish a work order. If anything,
Yeah, but
a
why are
couple,
you here?
I was
What are you looking for that's here?
I was recommended that there was this flower and ginger that grows naturally close, or if anything, close to the area here.
Ginger grows wherever. What's here that you need?
There's this flower that I'm looking for. It was used for a tea that I'm trying to work on. It, if anything, if I remember correctly, it's called the moon lily or something like that.
As soon as you mention that, he just kind of leans in and But he's not intently like, and he's not attempting to intimidate you. It's more just he's leaning in close and just says to you, "Stay away from that manor. Do not go up that road. I mean it." And then he leans back, and there's a clear like change in his tone as he just says, "That's a friendly piece of advice. Don't know if you've noticed," and he kind of gestures to the badge stuck on the breast pocket of his shirt. "I am the sheriff. I have a sizable number of missing persons cases that I don't want to add another name to, especially when I don't have one." Like, essentially, he's basically saying he doesn't want to add another person to the list of nameless people who have vanished in this area. They just mentioned there's a reason that people stay in their homes after dark. You don't want to know what it is. I mean, hell, I can't even tell you what it is. But what I can tell you, stay away from that manor. Don't go waking sleeping dogs, because they'll bite. Then he just casually takes out a packet of smokes and lights one. Goes back to leaning on the wall as if he's been there the entire day. Funnily enough, this is on the other side of the road from where you first saw him.
What do you do?
If anything, I'll end up saying thanks for the warning. I'll keep clearing of it at that point.
He just kind of nods his head as a good. Generally, what he's going to do is basically have his cigarette, and then he's going to end up like, he'll stop it, walk across the road to the little office, and head inside. So that's what he's going to do. So if there's anything you plan to do,
did you just lie to him and decide that you're gonna go up there and get that moon lily anyway?
If anything, I'll probably scope it out probably for like a day or two and then see what's going on there. I guess probably learn a little bit more information about the area, things like that about the manor. If I can prod some information, and then go from.
People are tight-lipped about the manor when you start asking about it.
Well, the general thing is, because it's early evening, you've got a few hours until the eponymous 7 p.m. lock-ins that start going on. So are you hanging around the bar?
If anything, I'll probably
start to come in.
If anything, I'll probably just head back to the cart right now, take inventory, stock, things like that. Have a passing time, wait, I guess, until things go quiet and everyone starts to go to bed or whatever, and then work my way up to the manor. Then,
I mean, to be fair, from the little inn, you are literally about a 15-second slow walk from your car. Because when I'm describing this as a tiny little spot of a crossroad, that's literally what it is. Just so that you're aware.
Well, if anything, it still never hurts to go up to the the car, take inventory, stock, and probably just, I guess, like, make sure everything's in order before I head up to the manor.
You have access to a move called Investigate a Mystery. Now, I can't remember. Is this what? Oh, no, that's right. Connect the dots is the one that you have to use right at the start, and that's not this. Right, so Investigate a Mystery is when you investigate a mystery, you can roll sharp to potentially gain 1 or 2 holds. Now, what holds are is basically there's a suggested list of questions, but like it's effectively you are allowed to ask the storytellers one or two questions, one for each hold that you have.
Mhm.
Strictly speaking, we give you factual information that in regards to how you're using this. Now, one of your abilities is because of your class, you have the lore library. Now, right at this moment, I'm I would suggest that because you're traveling around with basically your entire life in a cart that you're taking with you,
Mhm.
that you have a selection of stuff that's a stand-in for your havens right now.
Yeah.
Technically, these are supposed to be like a room in your home that you just have full of books would be your lore library.
In a sense, the cart is my home, so.
Yeah. So like you have a box that's full of like varying weird books that you've picked up over the years that
Mhm.
have a bunch of weird random little tidbits from different time periods or places or
Things like,
excerpts from biographies and stuff that
or
somehow
something that's
are
not in
super
the,
helpful.
or something like that that's not in like an English language or something,
Well,
or something
it
like that,
could
I'm
be.
assuming.
I
Mhm.
mean, there's also the fact that you've got the mystical library as well, which that's definitely that is the weird section of this box of books that you've got. So I mean, yeah, if you're prepared to sit for like say maybe take an evening to look through and see if you can find some kind of references, you could definitely investigate this mystery,
Mhm.
and then like if you would like to do that, essentially you click the roll there and you would put in a +2 because that's what your sharp skill is.
Mhm. So, which one would I click for?
Under if you
I know it's under Haven, and
yeah,
it's just that
it would be the first one.
lore library.
Yeah.
And probably that's kind of, I guess, like what I was saying about, like, I'll go back to the card and start preparing at least so I know what to, I guess, to take with me if anything or what to do.
Yeah.
So you said to do the lore library,
Yep.
and then what would I do with it? You said sharp, and then, or sharp default.
Well, you would click the button and then oh yeah, it's saying sharp default. Yes, you'd submit with that because then that will automatically account for what your sharp skill is.
And the forward.
We find out what your forwards is with
Yeah,
your roll.
Hmm.
yeah, because it's dependent on what your roll actually is for how many you get.
Hmm. 8.
So you
Oh,
get
makes it fit.
one. You get one
Well,
forward.
that's on the basic. I mean, the lore library gives you +1
So you get two.
to it. Yeah, no, I'm not 100% sure on if that's specific to +1 to the number of forwards that you get, or if it's meant as a +1 to the skill. I assume it should be forwards because of the way that the word
Forwards.
is. Yeah, so yeah, if we then open up the investigate mystery, yeah, so you gain two
Two
on that.
holds.
Yeah.
So
So as I say, you've got the questions that are there. Now, the answers you would get for these are pertinent to how you're researching this, which in regards to that, it does say as long as historical or reference works are appropriate,
Hmm.
which is actually very appropriate for this. So yeah, you can pick two of those questions, or you can, if you have a better question that you feel is more appropriate, then you can ask that question. It's basically you get to give me an answer free cards.
Hmm.
You don't have to ask them right now.
It could always be saved and used later.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't say specifically ask these two questions now. It's you get two holds, and then you
Hmm.
can spend them when you see fit.
I'm assuming there's a thing to where I can mark that there's holds or whatever, or no?
It should actually be open. It's under Hunter Moves, and then there's Investigate a Mystery. There's a bit there that you can specify the current holds. It should say 2 just now.
I don't see it. What is it under? Oh, I see the current holds too. I see it now.
Yeah, you found it there. Yeah, this is why I kind of hate how Magica has his stuff set out, because for some reason I seem to always end up clicking on his, and he's got all of these opened up,
Yeah.
which means there's a massive wall of text before it gets to what his actual skills are. Which is slightly annoying because, as I say, for some reason, every time I click on somebody's to see a sheet, I seem to always end up hitting Francis Lake. Which is kind of funny that happened.
All right, so mixed success. You use your you research some things that are going around here.
Yeah, like in one of the books that you're flicking through, for some random reason, you're reading through some stuff, and you're like, yeah, small towns, yeah, I get all this, I understand, blah blah blah. But then for some reason, you keep glancing at this other book, like anytime you switch pages, and you think, you know what, I'm going to look at that. So you snap that one shot, you pick out this other one, and you open it up, and it actually gives you a reference to an event.
Something about the manor.
Yeah, you find information in the book that mentions about the there was a feud for a short time between the Tamsworth family and the George family. Because yeah, when you're looking through this, it's mentioning about like up and coming towns in insert state here, and this is from about roughly 60-ish years ago, and this may come across as an absolute shocker, but roughly 60 years ago puts it at just at the end of the Civil War, which of course ended in mid 1865. I was about to say 1965.
No,
Damn, it hasn't even
1865.
started yet. Yes, 1865. There's reference to some towns that were coming up at that time, other places that were folding. Like, it's basically it's a little business note on about places that might be interesting to look at for business potential. And it mentions this area, but does warn of a feud between the George and Tamsworth families. Now, of course, you're aware that you are in the small village of Tamsworth. So apparently there's a George family that had an issue with the founders of this town. And it does occur to you that you may be able to gain further information asking a little bit about the history of the area, of some of the people that are here, because again, a lot of the people tend to be older, so a lot of them, you know, there are people in this town that you've seen in passing that you would wager might have been young round about the end of the Civil War, you know, that may have direct knowledge of what happened that led to the town being in its current state of slowly circling the drain. I would hazard as well that this is a time and a location that you would be well aware that chances are the sheriff probably is from a line of sheriffs. You know, the general store people, the Warrens, they've probably run that store for several generations. The only ones that you would know of that aren't is the Tams, which is kind of funny because they literally link up with the name of the town, but it's Tam, not Tams, and it's not Tamsworth. But they may have some kind of tangential relation to the Tamsworth family, assuming they are still around. And it's right at that point that you glance up and you look outside of the cart, just seeing a few people milling about, that you see a 80s to 90-year-old looking man with clearly some mobility issues with his knees. Definitely not doing that well walking. Walking along on a cane with what looks to be basically a younger version of himself. So you would wager a son or grandson, maybe. Basically acting as a crutch with holding the other arm, like escorting this man into the inn. So yeah, it's up to you what you would like to do. Plus, also as I say, you have the two holds that if a question becomes pertinent that you wish to ask to us directly, you can do so.
If anything, I'll probably just save the holds until later on, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I'm giving you a free one on that little bit of information about the town, but it's like this is the info that you're gaining that gives you some potential answers. It also helps to let you know, like, the plot threads we're dangling.
So you don't want to use any of your holds?
I didn't catch what you said. Sorry, my Discord died for a moment.
You don't want to use any of your holds?
Not currently, no. Until I can figure out more stuff about it, and if anything, if I'm in a pinch, I may be able to use it to an advantage then at that point.
Okay.
Which is literally what they are for. So yeah, I fully support you, and you're keeping a hold of those holds. So smart move.
And if anything, though, too, is that depending on, I guess, how things play out, and if I'm found by the party in time as well, too, then it might also come in handy for them. So.
Oh, you wouldn't have them at that point.
No.
Like they only persist for one session is the general thing, and this is a mini session, more to just, as I say, like help you understand how the system plays.
So next session you can only use it next session, this session and next session.
Yeah, because that would be the start of the official mystery. So you would definitely have the opportunity to do another one of these roles should you wish. You'll definitely have that opportunity next time, definitely.
So, anything else you want to do?
I think that'd probably be about it. If anything, and just wait for the time until the sun starts to set when I start seeing people, I guess, going home or something like that. And then when I see that it's clear, then I'll probably work my way towards the manor then.
It slowly starts roughly excuse me. So yeah, it slowly starts roughly about 6:30. You start seeing a few people coming out. The general store, they come out. There's like some shutters that they close over the windows. You notice a few of the houses, like shutters have been closed. You start noticing one or two people coming out of the little
of the structures.
There's basically a slow sort of build until effectively a group of 6 come out. At some point, you do see the elderly gentleman being escorted back out, and they head off to a house that is not particularly bigger. It's slightly bigger than the rest of the houses around, but not by much. It's like maybe got an extra room or two. It does look in slightly nicer aesthetic, but it's also clearly one of the oldest structures there. And the younger man takes the older gent back to that house. They head inside, and effectively the last thing before the streets are cleared is that the sheriff basically does like a sort of slow walk along. Takes like maybe 3 or 4 minutes. Just walk around, seeing that no one's like hanging around openly on the streets. And he eventually will come over. It's probably about 5 to 7 at this point, and he comes over to the cart, like knocks on the side, and waits for you to like basically open a cloth or whatever, look at like, yeah,
Mhm.
what's up,
Yeah.
and then basically says, "Stay in here or go get a room at the inn. You
Mhm.
got about 5 minutes.
Mhm.
Don't let me catch you on the street, please."
Mhm.
And like you can kind of tell that he doesn't like having to be this like kind of assholey thing.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to be putting a foot down, but it's kind of he has to. And he's so stay here or in.
Which
And
do you do?
he just gives you that kind of knowing nod
Yeah.
as he then heads over to the house literally next door to the little police office. Takes out a set of keys, lets himself in. Like you get the impression that that's actually his actual house that he
Mhm.
lives in.
So then what
And
I'll probably
yeah,
end up doing,
over
then
the
I'll
next
probably,
sort of 20 minutes, you notice that basically all lights end up being extinguished at windows. The place, if you had
Mhm.
came here and this was the first of you seeing the place, you would think no one lives here
Mhm.
because
So,
it also like just goes deadly silent
mhm.
other than the wind.
So then what I'll probably end up doing is giving it by like another 20, 30 minutes after that, after it looks like all the lights have gone out, to make sure that it's like everyone has gone to bed or whatever. And then at that point there, probably just work my way quietly up to the manor then.
Okay.
Or something like that, or if anything, I could just pull the cart or pull the cart up around towards out of the edge of town or something. Like, mm,
I mean, it's probably safer taking the car out to like the edge of the sort of village area.
yeah. So it's like at that point there, it's not in the edge of thing there, and if the sheriff comes by to poke by, it has to be like, hey, if I'm in there or whatever like that.
Yeah. When you decide to, that it would be a better idea doing that.
Mm.
When basically stick your horse in reverse and pull a 180. 3-point turn in a 1 horsepower horse and cart. Um, you turn around, trot out. There are some stones in the path. Like someone at some point attempted to lay like some path work. So there's the occasional little like clip or clop of you know horseshoe on stone.
Mhm.
And it occurs to you that as the sound echoes, like you glance around, you do see the occasional like someone at a curtain watching, but then as you look over, there's the quick pull of the curtain being closed, and somebody like rushing away.
Mhm.
You travel maybe 10-15 minutes, and you're over one hill. You're definitely out of view of the town,
Mhm.
and it's a fairly straight shot if you wanted to hop out of the car and head over towards the manor house, which stands rather imposingly at the top of this hill. And
Mhm.
there's a from maps of the area that basically you go up this hill. This manor house is kind of weird. Like it looks like a two-story structure, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's a one-story structure, but it's built into a hill. So you would hazard they probably have some kind of like storeroom that's like 1 story into the ground. Technically,
Basement,
basement. Yeah,
cellar, something like
yeah.
that.
Technically qualifies as that, even though it would technically be on the first floor if you were entering from the main door.
Mhm.
And the house does look that when it was new, it would have been rather opulent. Like it
Mhm.
definitely looked like someone with serious money built this place. Except it's now clearly overgrown as hell.
Yeah,
The
with that cart.
fields have been left basically to rot.
Yeah, with the cart thing, if anything, is that after being on the edge of the town, I'll probably give it another like 5, 6 minutes to make sure things have quieted down, or if there's no one that followed or whatever, and then work
Yeah,
my way to the
no
manor.
one follows you. There's definitely you get a slight feeling every now and then like maybe someone might be watching you,
Mhm.
but you do not see anyone anywhere. And there's also no sign of people in general.
Mhm.
Yeah, the design of the area, like the layout of the terrain and everything, is it's non-conducive to rolling up to the manor with the car. You would have to leave it on the road out of town. Though, of course, the place is that dead that you don't really have any worries. You know,
Yeah, but
you've been on the road for long enough. You know the feeling of places that you shouldn't be leaving the car. So yeah, you can hop off and basically follow. There's a small ridge of like hilly, bumpy areas that clearly someone would have flattened in a more modern time, but you know, this was pre-Civil War, so they weren't doing a lot of terrain editing. So you've got visual cover from the few houses that would be able to see it. You do get that kind of feeling like this place, something's off about this place as you head up there to have a look into it.
Heading up towards the mansion, you do have a sense of.
Well, the question is, are you actually going into the area, or are you just hanging around the outskirts?
I'm probably gonna hang around the outskirts and see what there is, if anything, or to see those surroundings before going in.
Yeah. Oh, as I was saying before we took that short break, that yeah, it's a clearly overgrown by nature. A lot of the area has been left to ruin. You can see up on the hill. There's it goes up and then there's a sharp drop off that you could kind of get the impression of from where you're standing, like you're kind of looking up at it at an angle. You can see the house sitting there. There's the remains of an old stable nearby that, strangely enough, has a bunch of markers around it as if like to keep people away from the rubble. They've clearly seen a better time. And yeah, pathways are overgrown as hell. The field area is completely desolate.
Right.
There's even like very rusty old manual farming tools have been left to rust in the fields. And yeah, as you're looking at this place, you get the impression that this was probably very opulent and quite a grand structure back in its day, but it's an absolute travesty now with how overgrown it is. Like the building looks like it's on its last legs, could collapse it under a light breeze potentially. But you definitely get the impression that something is very wrong in this area. And as you're looking up towards the hill in the house, you can see a large, like a singular large tree, possibly like an oak tree, for instance. It's quite a sizable, chunky tree. Looking up at that manor house, you get that kind of feeling in your stomach, like that a bad place, something bad.
It's like a negative aura in a sense, or a negative feeling.
Yeah, like you're definitely just getting that something's making like the hairs on the back of your neck stick up. That this place is something wrong went on here. That, you know, probably is related to why the townspeople that you've seen are very iffy about talking about the place.
Do you
So
continue, or yeah, do you continue or not?
Yeah, I'll continue then at that point.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, basically the sort of final warning that you're like the weirdness that you're used to in your everyday life, kind of is almost like shouting at you now. As you walk up, there are a set of stones that probably had like a wooden fence behind them at some point as a marker that comes up. You can kind of see that it's almost like the grass on the side of these stone markers on your side is greener than the grass immediately after. It's almost like the world is screaming at you to not take any more steps into this place. So the question is, do you enter the property?
I'll enter the property.
Alright, the moment you do that, all of the feeling of run the fuck away immediately stops, and it becomes very apparent you cannot hear the rustling of the trees. You can't hear the wind anymore. It's just almost like the moment you take that one step past this stone boundary, dead silence. So, what you doing?
And at that point there, I'll probably start investigating around the property, seeing what else, if there's anything else to uncover or to find. If anything. And then I'll probably check out the cemetery last.
Okay. So you're heading up towards the manor house.
Like up to the manor, I guess checking the outsides, if anything.
Yeah. As you approach up to the sort of boundary where there's clearly a little sort of boundary where it stops being the fields and you're now into a small sort of slightly better kept area around the front of the manor. You can definitely see, yes, this is a one-story building, but it has a built-in
cellar.
Yes, cellar level that's technically the first floor because of the way it's been built. There's it kind of looks like you've got this building on the ridge line, and then it comes down, and there is a single room sized piece at the front that's probably meant as like an entryway. Obviously you can't tell what's inside because the windows are obviously it's dark, but also the windows look like they are covered and caked in dust. There are a few spots where it looks like possibly somebody's wiped the windows quite a while ago. It's probably you get the feeling it's probably kids have maybe come up here sometime in the past, tried to have a look, probably heard something snapping a twig in the distance and ran away in terror. But yeah, the ground looks basically like no one's really been here for any length of time. It does seem weirdly not quite as overgrown as you would expect for when you were researching the stuff in the book. It kind of suggested the last entry about this place was 60 years ago. You'd expect this to be a little bit more overgrown, but it's not super terrible. Yeah, there's a few other small structures like little sheds that have collapsed over the years. There's one that has it looks like an old cart that would have been pulled by a horse has been basically crushed under this shed as it's collapsed, which is attached to a larger structure that's in pieces. And it's now that as you're closer up, you can actually see the markers that were placed around it are actually crosses with little sashes. I forget the proper term. It's like the little bandana you would wear if it's dusty that you can pull up over your mouth, to breathe better in dusty winds. It's a set of those that have been tied onto each one of these crosses, and you can't make out if there's anything being etched into them, but they appear as if they've been placed there like grave markers. You know what? You're not going to get a failure. If you get a failure for this roll, it will not gain you experience. But give me a sharp roll.
A sharp roll?
Yes.
So I'm assuming click the little dice next to sharp and then leave whatever it sits in for and just hit submit.
Yeah.
Success. 11.
That's perfect. Yeah. Okay, so while you're having a look around, sort of thinking like, where could I start looking for stuff? As you glance to the side, there's a little dip in the ridge line at the side of the house, and it's just at the perfect angle that you can kind of see as the terrain at the back of the house sort of goes up towards this cliff at the back. You kind of notice that at the base of this tree, there appears to be what kind of looks like it might be like some kind of stone marker, maybe a tombstone, and there's a faint glint at the bottom of it. It's a kind of bluey glint. You see it out the corner of your eye, and then as you look at it, it disappears. But you definitely saw something.
And at that point there, I'll probably go up and see what that glint was potentially.
Well, when you head up there, you see exactly why the house was built where it is. Because glancing back, the view from the front of the house out over where the little village area is, you have this absolutely tremendous view that's weirdly tinted with an almost cerulean blue tint to the sky, which is kind of weird for this time of year. Like, you would expect this in the middle of winter, but not quite in November. Like, it's not quite into the right time for this specific color to appear. But yeah, you get an almost... Again, this is one of these places. If the camera was invented to the degree it is now, you know, if you had a 1970s Polaroid, you could get some tremendous nature shots from up here. The area is beautiful. Yeah, as you look over to where the glint is that you saw, yeah, you can see there are two grave markers at the base of this giant tree that's overlooking this cliff. And again, on the other side, you can see the distant sparkling of a larger town on the horizon, and where some of the hills make a little valley. You can just see some light sparkling in the distance there. And again, absolutely picturesque. Looks like an absolutely beautiful place. But then as you're looking towards that, you feel that kind of an empty sadness. Like, and the closer you get to the tree, it doesn't get strong enough to like become overwhelming, but you definitely start to feel it. So you're heading over to try and find out what the glint might have been?
Yeah.
Well, when you go up, you find the two grave markers. The names are worn away. Although you can make out that one of them appears to say 1860 something. So sometime in 1860, at least one of the markers was put in. And at the base of the other one, which seems to have been there a bit longer, probably wager about maybe 10-15 years longer, give or take, there's what looks to be a small hand, like that of a very small figurine, sticking up out of some grass. It appears to be metal. It's kind of sticking out of a little tuft of grass.
If anything, I'm probably gonna leave it be, since I don't know what may be attached to the thing. Would I be able to potentially come back to it later, or no?
I mean, it's here. It's not growing legs and running off. At least not that you know of.
No, but whatever it could be, if anything, could potentially move it to insert location.
You'd have to try and investigate it to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, leaving things alone is completely a valid strategy.
Because hell, if I
because I'm saying these things here, you doesn't mean you have to whip out a trowel and dig it up.
no, it's like
I will
if
be-
anything, it's like from what I've learned in past stuff is if you see something there that's sitting on top of a gravestone or near a grave, don't touch it. Because you don't know whatever it could potentially make things worse there.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I'm simply telling you what you see when you're there. It's up to you if you want to poke things. So okay, if you're leaving that there, what's your intended path?
Then at that point, I'll probably eventually I'll try to work my way back down and look for that cemetery that the one bar lady said about. See if I can find the flowers there.
You make it down there absolutely fine. When you're passing the house, you do get a slight feeling of like someone watching you for a minute. And then at one point, as you're climbing down the little ridge, you glance across, just because you get that feeling that someone's watching you, and it's like for a moment, you could swear that you see the outline of someone at a window, but then you blink and it's gone. You sort of pause for a moment, and then okay, nothing. So you basically just continue down, and yeah, as you're heading past, you can see the demolished structure that's collapsed in. You do kind of notice that this was a large structure, and there are 8 markers around it. And on passing nearby, you can clearly see that one of them has something scratched in, but it's been worn away over the years.
It's
so
been weathered. It's been weathered away.
Yeah, it's been weathered away. You can't make it out, but again, it's you've seen this stuff enough. You can wager it's a grave marker of some sort, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So are you investigating that at all in passing, or heading down to the graveyard?
I investigate that area and see what's all there, or guess like that, or what happened. Sorry if I'm leading into the thing.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, you sort of pause, have a look around. You can kind of see the outline for the size of the structure, and of course, because you've spent time around horse stables and such, you can take a good guess that this is likely the remains of a fairly sizable stable. You probably bet about 10 horses could probably be stabled here comfortably, and yet the structure seems to have collapsed, and it wouldn't take too much to put together. You'd wager these grave markers are either for horses that died here, or someone else who died here. And considering the structure has collapsed, it doesn't take much to wager what happened. People and or animals died here when the place collapsed. And unless you're actually digging through any of the rubble, then that's essentially what you get on like a cursory check of the area. So the question then is, are you digging into the rubble or continuing down to the graveyard?
I'm probably just gonna head down to the graveyard because digging through the rubble of what looks like potentially a potential grave site, bad voodoo.
Yeah, I mean that is totally fair.
Because I don't think you want to have a spirits having their grave site disturbed, even though it ended up in a tragic way.
Yeah. Well, I mean that is a completely fair and realistic
Thing.
way to go with it. So yeah, you basically back away from it, and
Probably, if anything,
head down the pathway.
probably do a small prayer and say I'm sorry for what happened or whatever, and then just head down to the cemetery. I don't know if that would be a thing.
That's fun. So do me a favor, high or low?
Low. Two.
You're lucky. Nothing happens. So The only thing that happens is you kind of feel an ever so slight shiver when you say a prayer before deciding, okay, yeah, I'm just going to leave this to it. We're just going to leave it, and you head down the path. Again, as you walk out of the like house area and into the actual fields, as you're heading down, you kind of get that feeling like you don't get the sickening feeling of like vertigo, but there's a weird kind of every time you glance up, it honestly looks like where the path continues down to the little village. It seems like the trees around that path are almost like closing in around it. It just strangely looks darker every time you glance at that pathway as you're heading down towards it. And eventually you do get down to where the graveyard is. And this area, it's clearly seen, it's not as overgrown because it has been maintained up until you'd wager probably about sort of 15-20 years ago, because you can actually see the most recent marker in here as you step in and you're sort of walking back and forth looking at stuff, because you're looking for your moon lilies. You don't see any immediately, but you can pick out from the grave markers. It's about 20 years ago that the last grave was actually used here, and there's probably about maybe 3 or 4 further burials worth of land before they'd have to extend the fencing, which is in fairly good condition, though a lot of the little spikes at the top of the fences are bent. Probably looks like, kids throwing stones at stuff, being assholes like kids usually are. Because you need something rare or unusual. Yeah, so this is under your moves. So yeah, go ahead and roll preparedness.
Leave it on sharp default and then click submit.
Yeah.
13.
Oh, that's actually really good. Yeah, you were prepared. Yeah, it's at this point that you suddenly remember that you're looking for moon lilies, and you know that you seem to need a certain amount of spiritual activity to go on, and there is spiritual activity in the area, and it suddenly occurs to you, if you were to slightly annoy the spirits in the area, that if there are lilies immediately around, they're probably you're effectively going to activate them,
Or make them bloom.
yeah, you could effectively force any in the area to bloom if you cause a small spike in the spiritual activities, which you do have the ability to do because you're prepared. So yeah, effectively, however you wish to describe, trying to basically poke the spirits a little bit to waken things up. On a 13, you can do it. It's up to you how you do it.
Would I be able to let the DM or GMs be the one to pick on how that starts? Or no?
Well, I mean, this is your opportunity for how you wish to proceed on it. I'm effectively saying here, whatever you want to say happens. So I mean, if you literally want to stand there and shout, come at me, you spooky bitches, that it'll work. You know, there will be a spirit that will take offense to whatever you do. And,
Could we
and
make it?
you're also lucky in that you're not going to accidentally piss off a spirit that's going to throw a tombstone at you, because you've got a good success.
Could we make it set to where it's like with my presence being on the property is upsetting it to the point to where it shows that I'm not willing to leave at this point or whatever? And it's upsetting it that much.
It could. The spiritual stuff. So yeah, you can take over for this bit, Karsa. You're more versed in that stuff.
Hmm.
This sounds like exactly your forte.
13 success, right?
Yes. Technically an advanced success, though character can't get an advanced.
No advance. But
as far as I'm concerned, this is regardless of what it is, it has the positive outcome, which is activating forcing any moon lilies to bloom.
what exactly are you doing while you're in the cemetery?
If anything, I was looking around trying to find at that point there to see if there may have been enough activity there for the lilies to bloom there, because you'd think that graveyards would tend to have a lot more activity due to it being, a graveyard.
This one's a little bit more quiet than the first one you were at. But you do have a sense you could find some activity here if you made enough noise.
Or if anything, to potentially rile it up enough. It might make itself known to where those lilies may be
if
sitting.
you like move anything or whatever, yeah, it could do that. Depends on what you're gonna do.
I was thinking is like from what it made it sound like when I first entered on the property, it was like this negative feeling.
Yeah, there's a feeling.
And the idea is that with me being on the property for so long, it's riling up whatever it is because I'm not willingly to leave. Or like to leave on my own accord, At that point,
how long would you stay on that mansion? On the property?
It was like 20 minutes after when everyone left. I left on the horse to go out to the edge of town, waited another 5-10 minutes, and then made my way up to the manor. Went around it. I don't know how much time would have passed, but then stepping into it and then exploring pretty much all around the property.
Okay.
If you want, we could say like could be like an hour or two has passed or something.
Yeah, you get the feeling that you feel like you've been there for probably about 2 hours, because it is quite a sizable property.
Mm-hmm.
And it also occurs to you, the moon should be higher, but it's not. It's sitting just peeking over the horizon that you could see from up at the tree.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, it should be moving upward. It seems to be moving downward.
No, it's not moving.
Or not moving at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you are walking through, you snap a twig.
Mm-hmm.
And you start hearing some rustling in the background. Unlike the noise you had not heard.
Mm-hmm.
There is rustling. What do you do?
I'll probably try to see where the sound of the rustling came from.
The rustling is coming from the manor itself. But you see nothing as you look up. You continue to decide to walk the
Okay, hold on. I think we need to recon back here. The purpose of this is that Velma is at the little cemetery, intent to piss off the spirits to make the
lilies
bloom.
Right. So I need her to
like
do something.
She's not going wander around.
And I gave her the opportunity to make
be fair,
noise.
yeah, to be fair, like I did say, KK, that like this is the opportunity given to you to decide on what you want to do.
Yeah.
I know, but that's the thing, is like I wouldn't know how to start, so that's why I was making the proposal, if you guys would want to be the one to insert how that starts.
Well,
Okay, fair enough, because I got a perfect thing for you. As you're walking up and down, and you can see, you know what these spiritual moon lilies look like when they're not in bloom, and you know that they're basically useless for the purposes that you need them, unless they're blooming when you pick them.
Yeah.
So you know that you can't just start picking them as they are. And then it occurs to you, you need more activity. And you remember the first grave marker, the first tombstone that you passed that looked kind of newish.
Mm-hmm.
There was a pot sitting in front of it.
Hmm.
And it had some relatively recent flowers put in it. So it occurs that if you tampered with that might be just enough to make at least one spirit annoyed enough
to push it over the edge.
Push it, yeah. Might just give it that tiny little nudge. So, are you going to go and mess with the pot?
I say I'll probably go mess with the flowers, but not the pot.
Well, it's all kind of six that, doesn't it?
the same thing. And the moon lilies do start to activate and they start to become blue.
But they start to bloom with their
Yeah.
light and bluish
You
white
get
Yes.
a feeling. You get a feeling almost like you know when you get on a plane and they pressurize it.
Mm-hmm.
You get a sensation almost like that, like just the air pressure rising slightly, and it does for a moment feel ever so slightly colder. Yeah, and there's a faint shimmer around a few of the lilies that are growing amongst the gravestones, where there is an ever so slight build up to this glow, and then just as you reach out to sort of just run a finger over one to check just how it's going, as you do that, you get a flash of basically an older woman who is cloaked in shadow. Honestly, looks exactly like a wraith if you were to describe one. Suddenly appearing in your vision, screeching at you and disappearing. And it's enough that you sort of jump back, like, what the hell was that? And then you realize that there's nothing actually around you. But clearly you've annoyed something. And it's almost like that feeling, like, effectively probably what a deer feels like as it looks into the trees and sees the wolves circling. You get a momentary feeling of that predatory gaze on you. But then as you take a moment to regain your breath, you do notice that the lilies, they're starting to glow properly. As it's almost like when a bunch of fireflies are zooming around a flame. Like, it's almost like that, but it's all tinted blue as it kind of coalesces into the leaves and they fully bloom out.
Yeah.
And you also you immediately can feel like your hand reaching to a pouch and pulling out like a little bag that you can pick all this stuff up, because you've been doing this that long. This is just an automatic response. Oh, magic thing! I'm going to collect it.
It's like something to where I know how to pick it properly without ruining it.
Oh yeah, you definitely know that. You know how to treat these with the dainty, delicate touch of a trained herbalist.
Yeah.
You definitely know what you're doing.
What made you pick?
I'll probably just try to pick a bunch at this point. I don't know what's there, so.
You know what? Roll a d20.
How would I roll this?
In the chat box, you can type /R, then a space, and type 1d20 or just d20. There's also a symbol on the side that looks like a dice. If you hover over it, it says dice. Click that. That's the built-in dice roller, and then you can just click the d20 icon on that.
I'll probably just do that because I don't want to type the thing in by accident and have it be wrong or something.
Well, this is not for, it's just /roll 1d20.
So D20. Oh, okay.
What did you get?
19.
Yeah, perfect. As you go through, you effectively gain 19
19 lilies.
that are usable for your crafting requirements. And you know what? Because we don't really use this at all, under your gear is a little drop down for other gear. I'm going to add 19 times active moon lily in there.
Yeah. So you managed to get your moon lilies. But you definitely feel you are not alone. Now you can continue around the mansion, or you can do it, or you can just leave. What will you do?
I'll probably at this point here apologize to the grave where I disturbed their flowers and then leave.
Do you put everything back as you found it?
Yes.
Yeah. When you do that, you do get a faint sort of. It's not exactly a thankful vibe, but it's almost like somebody saying, "Yeah, you better do that. Yeah, you better fix what you did." And the wraith figure that appeared for a moment, as you're turning away from the grave after apologizing and explaining your piece as you fixed everything, you get there's a slight moment just as you're turning out the corner of your eye. It almost looks like the exact same figure, but instead of being like in a black robe, appears to be wearing a sort of faintly shimmering blue tinted robe. You can't make out any features, but it's almost like they're giving you a nod and thanks for fixing what you broke, essentially. And then you also immediately get hit by that sensation of sadness. Like it's almost like the sadness is like the default feeling of this location. And yeah, you're able to step out of the small area, and you're left back effectively at the crossroad here. You've got the manor house up the hill. You do know that if you want to take the same route back to the cart, which is probably the safest, you would have to head back up to the manor house and then out the side, because the gates to the property facing the small village pathway continues down, but there are some rather sizable like about 20-foot tall metal railings with a sizable set of gates that if you were a little bit closer, you basically assume these to be rusted shut. And if you take a few steps towards them, you definitely see, yeah, these are rusted shut, and there's basically zero visual cover between here and the village. So if anyone was looking for people out after the curfew, you'd definitely get spotted.
Yeah, I'll probably take the same route that I used to get up there in the first place.
Yeah, you 100% make it back, no problem. Except when you head up and out to the side, and you're heading back towards. Like you get up to the manor, no problem, and then you hang a right. And
Did
start
you
heading.
remember that place that was colored and then was really dull and that you had stepped over?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like it just keeps going further and further away from you.
Yeah, as you walk along the edge of one of the fields, you suddenly get a moment where you stop and you look up and you realize that the boundary to this area is probably about 150 feet away. You should be able to walk that fairly quickly. You turn around and there's maybe a third of the field to your side before you'd be back at the manor. And you're thinking, wait a minute. I've been walking for over a minute. I should be further along. Maybe I'm just going crazy. So you turn back to it and you continue walking. And then it suddenly occurs to you that when you look to the side, there's a rusted farm implement. Kind of looks like one of those manual plows that were used before the advent of tractors and stuff. It looks like a manual plow that you would put behind a horse, and it's rusted. The way that the I want to say tangs, like the hooks, I can't remember the proper term for them, but the way that they are like bent due to like time and rust, it's very specific. And it occurs to you that you've passed two of them that looked identical. And that boundary leading back to your car hasn't gotten any closer. So what do you do?
I'll probably just look around at that point or see, or like if anything at this point here, keep an eye out, try to go towards the direction. If I see that I'm passing it again, then I'll probably go off and look at a different direction to see if there's another way out.
Yeah, you give it a good test. You walk along towards it again, and you never get this feeling that you're actually getting closer, and then you realize you're passing the same farm implement, rusted, and those bends are very specific. It occurs to you that you may want to have a look at the house, possibly. Except this is right when the "to be continued" appears along the bottom of the screen.
Yep.
Because it is 5:06 for me, which means it's getting quite late for you guys.
It's getting very late.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
if
we have the moment where Velma turns from the field and looks at the suddenly incredibly imposing manor house in front of her. It takes that breath of, I'm going to have to go in there and try and find out what's the deal with this place. And just as she starts setting off, that's when the credits roll.
Yep.
That's when the credits roll, and at the end of it, it says "to be continued."
Yeah.
So, this is Karsa. KarsaKKWx. Karsa's my name. KKWX is my empire. And we just found out that... What's your character's name?
Velma Bright.
Velma is stuck. And we'll see if she gets saved. Goodbye!